Single dad fixes car for free. Little girl inside whispers, "She's my mom. Please marry her." Morning traffic roared through the city like an angry river. Engines growled. Horns blared. People hurried across crosswalks as sunlight bounced off glass towers and silver cars. Ella tightened her grip on the steering wheel. Her heart raced. "Not now. Please, not today," she muttered, her voice trembling. Sweat trickled along her temple, dampening her hairline. Her navy vest, once crisp, now clung wrinkled from stress. The temperature gauge flicked red. Then the Range Rover coughed, shuddered, and went dead right in the middle of the intersection. Behind her, 6-year-old Lily clutched her stuffed bunny, eyes wide with fear. "Mommy, are we going to be late?" Ella forced a small smile. "No, baby. Mommy's got this," but she didn't, not really. She was already running late for a meeting that could decide the fate of her company. Outside, frustrated drivers yelled and honked. Somewhere, a cyclist slowed down, eyeing the stalled SUV. He parked his bike, watching as Ella tried again and again to start the engine. "Fancy car," someone muttered. "Guess money can't buy maintenance." The man ignored the comment. He stepped forward, calm but firm. "Excuse me," he said, voice steady despite the chaos. "Need a hand?" Ella looked up. The man wore jeans, a faded mechanic's shirt, and a patch that read Jack. A tool bag rested against his hip. She hesitated. "This is a Range Rover," she said cautiously. "Not exactly something you just fiddle with." He gave a slight nod, his gaze softening as he noticed Lily in the back seat, holding her bunny tight. "I understand," he said quietly. But she looked scared. "Maybe I can help, just for her." Something in his tone broke through her tension. Ella sighed. "Fine, just don't make it worse." Jack popped the hood, his movements smooth and confident. Amid honking cars and flashing lights, he worked with quiet focus, like chaos didn't exist around him. A few minutes later, he closed the hood and wiped his hands with a rag. "Loose thermostat wire," he said. "You'll be fine till you get to a shop." Ella climbed in, turned the key, and the engine purred back to life. Her eyes widened. "You actually fixed it?" Jack smiled faintly. "Guess I did." She reached for her purse. "Wait, how much do I owe you?" "No charge," he said simply. "Just a good deed for the day. You don't want anything?" He shook his head and started walking away. "Thank you," she called after him. He raised a hand but didn't look back. Then a small voice broke the moment. "Wait," Jack turned. Lily had rolled down the window and was holding out a crayon drawing, edges crinkled, colors bright. "She's my mom," Lily said seriously. "You should marry her." Time froze. Jack blinked, startled. "Lily!" Ella gasped, reaching back. "Sweetheart, that's not—" But Lily continued, calm and certain. "My mommy doesn't have a husband. And I don't have a dad. But I think you'd be a good one." Jack didn't laugh. He didn't tease. He just looked at the little girl, then at her mother. A quiet smile touched his face before he turned away, pedaling off into the blur of traffic. Ella sat frozen, heart pounding. In her hands was Lily's drawing. 3 stick figures holding hands beneath a big yellow sun. One tall, one with long yellow hair, and one tiny, with bunny ears drawn beside her. Even when the light turned green, Ella didn't move. A week later, Ella found herself parked outside a small auto repair shop tucked between a bakery and a laundromat. She'd told herself it was coincidence, that the car had been rattling that morning, and this garage just happened to be the closest. But when she saw the old sign, Jack's Auto and Repairs, something fluttered inside her chest. "Is this where the nice man works?" Lily asked, clutching her bunny. Ella nodded slowly. Inside, sunlight spilled through dusty windows. The smell of oil lingered, but everything was neat and organized. Jack stood by a red pickup, wiping grease from his hands. When he looked up, surprise flickered in his eyes. "Oh," he said, smiling. "It's you." "Small world," Ella replied, trying to sound casual. "You don't strike me as a neighborhood garage kind of person," he teased. "Google Maps betrayed me," she said with a playful smirk. He chuckled. "What's the problem this time?" "Little rattle in the engine," she said. "Figured I'd ask the expert." As Jack checked the car, Ella glanced around and saw a small girl peeking from behind a tool cabinet. She had curly brown hair, wide curious eyes, and sneakers with one untied lace. "Hi," Lily said softly. "Hi, I'm Ruby," the other girl replied. Within minutes, they were sitting together on a spare tire, coloring side by side with Lily's crayons. Jack glanced at them and smiled. They look like trouble. More like peace negotiators, Ella said with a grin. Armed with glitter, he laughed, shaking his head. Then he tightened the last bolt. Loose heat shield. Nothing major. Ella opened her purse. At least let me pay you this time. He paused, thoughtful. How about coffee instead? Someday. No strings, his tone was gentle, honest. I'll think about it, Ella said. As she loaded Lily back into the car, she noticed a small plastic bag on the seat. Inside were freshly washed white sneakers tied neatly with pink laces, Lily's exact size. What's this? She murmured. They're like rubies, Lily exclaimed happily. Ella turned to look. Jack was already walking back inside, pretending not to notice. He hadn't said a word. That morning, Ella noticed the faint tear along Lily's shoe, the same one Jack must have seen when he knelt beside the car. She remembered Ruby's shoes too, not new but spotless, cared for, loved. A lump rose in her throat. Such a tiny gesture, yet it felt like someone had quietly seen her life and chosen kindness. She sat behind the wheel, took a steady breath before turning the key. From the back seat, Lily kicked her small legs and giggled. Mommy, I think Ruby's my best friend now. Ella caught her reflection in the mirror, smiling softly. I think maybe, she whispered. You just might be right. The cafe was small, tucked between a flower shop and an antique bookstore. Only a few mismatched tables, the scent of cinnamon and roasted coffee hanging gently in the air. It wasn't the kind of place where CEOs came to talk, but today Ella didn't feel like one. Jack held the door for her. For a moment, her blazer and heels looked too polished for the rustic place, but when she smiled, all that armor faded. She was just a woman again, tired, real. They sat by the window. Outside, autumn clouds hovered low. Inside, silence sat between them. Not heavy, just careful. You didn't have to meet me, she said finally. I know, he replied, stirring his coffee slowly. But I wanted to, she smiled faintly. I don't usually do this. Neither do I. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Jack exhaled. If we're going to be friends or whatever this is, I should tell you why Ruby's mom isn't around. Ella's hands tightened slightly around her cup. Her name was Rachel, he began. We met in high school. She was wild and brilliant. When she got pregnant, we were terrified, but we thought love could fix anything. We married young, scraped by, and made it work. He paused, eyes sinking to the table. When Ruby was born, something went wrong. One moment she was holding my hand, the next doctors were shouting and doors were closing. She didn't make it. Ella's heart clenched. I held Ruby 5 minutes after she came into this world, Jack said quietly, and buried Rachel 2 days later. No drama, no tears, just a voice shaped by years of quiet grief. I tried to go back to work. I was an engineer, but every time I left the house, I'd hear Rachel's voice. Couldn't do it. So I started fixing cars from a rented garage. It paid little, but it kept me close to Ruby. We survived on cartoons and peanut butter sandwiches. Ella didn't speak for a while. Her eyes glistened. Finally, she whispered, she'd be proud of you. Jack's lips lifted in a tired smile. Some days I let myself believe that. The waitress refilled their cups without a word. After a long silence, Ella said quietly, I was married once too. Jack looked up. He was perfect on paper, rich, charming, my father's business partner's son. Everyone called us a power couple. Her voice trembled slightly. Then I got pregnant, and suddenly I wasn't part of his plan anymore. Jack frowned. He didn't want the baby. He wanted control, she said bitterly. He found someone else before I was even in my 3rd trimester. When I confronted him, he told me I was too emotional, that I was ruining his image. Then he made it public, filed for divorce, leaked it to the press. Jack winced. I gave birth while paparazzi camped outside my apartment. I was humiliated, but then I looked at Lily and all the noise disappeared. She became everything, he nodded quietly. I rebuilt my company from home, she continued. Worked through nights, ignored the pain. I didn't have time to cry or break down. I just became a machine. Jack shook his head. You're not a machine. Machines don't raise little girls who hand strangers drawings of their family. Ella blinked fast, wiping a tear. You know, she said softly. This is the first time I've told anyone all this. Not in an interview, not to friends, no one. Jack leaned back. Then maybe we both needed this. Their eyes met. The air between them changed. Lighter, warmer, fragile but alive. Outside, rain began to fall, tapping gently on the window pane. Ella smiled faintly. Lily's been drawing you a lot lately, Jack chuckled. And Ruby's been asking when she can have a sleepover with the girl who eats carrots. Strange kid. Ella laughed, the sound catching them both off guard. It was the kind of laugh that healed something unseen. That night, the laughter felt distant. Ella heard soft footsteps, a creaking door, and then silence. She followed the sound to Lily's room. Her daughter was curled up on the bed, bunny clutched tightly, face buried in the pillow. Sweetheart. Ella sat beside her, brushing a lock of hair from her cheek. What happened? Lily's shoulders shook. They said, I don't have a dad. Her voice broke. They laughed, Mommy, said I'm not normal. Ella's heart cracked open. She pulled Lily close, holding her as if she could shield her from the world. You are the most special girl in the whole world, she whispered. Those kids are wrong. But they're not, Lily said between sniffles. There's a Father's Day breakfast next week. Everyone's dad is coming, everyone but me. I'll come with you, Ella offered quickly. They said moms can't, it's only for real dads. Ella had no words. She just rocked her little girl gently, whispering comfort that felt too small for such a big ache. The next morning, Lily refused to get dressed. I'm not going, she said, crossing her arms. I don't want them to laugh again. Ella stood in the kitchen, motionless as the toast burned in the toaster. She was a CEO who could lead hundreds, yet she couldn't fix her daughter's broken heart. That afternoon, Jack stopped by to return her spare key after fixing the car earlier that week. He noticed the weariness in her face. What's wrong? He asked softly. Ella hesitated, then told him everything. The teasing, the Father's Day event, the sadness she couldn't undo. Jack listened silently. His eyes darkened. No child should ever feel like that, he said quietly. I just don't know how to make it better, she whispered. Jack didn't offer advice. He looked up toward Lily's window, then back at Ella. Good night, he said gently, and left. Hours later, when the neighborhood was asleep and the streetlights flickered over wet pavement, Jack walked down the quiet road toward the school. Got it. Here's the same sequence rewritten in fresh cinematic English. Same plot, new wording. Ready for voiceover. He walked up to the school just before dawn with a sheet of paper folded in his jacket. Using a strip of clear tape, he fixed it beside the main entrance. At the top, a crayon drawing. A little girl holding hands with a tall man. A bunny plush sketched beside them. Beneath it, block letters in bright marker. Lily is the bravest girl I know. From her proud second dad. By morning, kids clustered around the note. Some smiled, some pointed. Teachers paused, nodding to each other in low voices. Lily arrived with her chin tucked to her chest. She didn't look up until a girl ran over. Lily, did your dad draw that? He's not my real dad, Lily mumbled. Another girl grinned. My stepdad never makes me things like that. A boy added, half wistful. I wish my dad said stuff like that. Lily blinked at them, then a slow, careful smile spread across her face. That afternoon, she flung open the car door, glowing. Mommy, they saw Jack's sign. They loved it. Jack's what? Ella asked, stunned. He made a picture for me and put it on the wall. Everyone read it. Ella's fingers tightened around the steering wheel. Something rose in her chest. Quiet, swelling, impossible to name. That evening, she drove to the garage. Jack stood elbow deep beneath a raised hood. You didn't have to do that, she said softly. I know, he answered without looking up. But you did. He met her eyes. I just wanted her to know she isn't alone. She smiled today, Ella whispered. First real smile in days. She deserved to, he said with a small shrug. Silence settled, full rather than awkward. That meant more than you know, Ella added, voice low. Not only to her, to me. They stood there, not as lovers, not with labels, just two people held together by a gentler thing, a kind of love drawn in crayon and lit by morning light. The park was a wash of warm color, late sun painting long shadows, leaves whispering over their heads. Jack hauled a modest cooler from his truck. Ella spread a checkered blanket beneath a tall oak. Ruby and Lily tore circles around them, arms loaded with snacks and juice boxes. "Don't forget the marshmallows," Ruby shouted. "Next to the lemonade," Jack called back, and his eyes met Ella's for a heartbeat. They both looked away. An unspoken something threaded through the glance. It had been simple. Ruby wanted a picnic. Lily begged to join. Ella, caught off guard by the thought of Jack's quiet smile, said yes. Now charcoal glowed and Jack turned hot dogs on the grill, while Ella helped the girls stack graham crackers and chocolate into teetering cookie towers. Whenever one collapsed, the girls exploded into delighted giggles. "I haven't heard her laugh like that in weeks," Ella murmured, watching Lily's chocolate-smeared grin. "She just needed a reason," Jack said. They sat shoulder to shoulder on the blanket, a comfortable lane opening between them. Unlabeled, tender, present. After dinner, the girls sprinted off to fly a kite. Jack started cleaning the grate. "I'll help," Ella said, reaching for the tray. She hissed, "Too hot." "Let me see." He stepped closer. "It's nothing," she began, though her palm was already flushed. Jack cradled her wrist gently. "This might sting." He pulled a chilled water bottle from the cooler, poured a thin stream over her hand, patted it dry with a napkin, then without thinking, leaned in and blew softly on the burn the way a father soothes a child. Ella looked up. Jack went still, realizing, "Sorry, habit, I do it with Ruby." She didn't pull away. Their eyes held. The moment lengthened, quiet, brimful, until the girls' laughter floated back and the spell loosened. Dusk deepened. Fireflies stitched small lights across the grass. While they packed the truck, Ella said, "Lily's been asking if you and Ruby want to come over sometime." Jack looked at her. "Just dinner," she added, "maybe. Cookies." "You had me at cookies," he said. Friday night, Jack arrived at Ella's door with Ruby's hand in his and a slightly lopsided pie. "Credit goes to Ruby," he said. "I supervised the uneven parts." The house felt warmly lived in. Lily's artwork papered the fridge. Stuffed animals peered from behind couch pillows. The girls had transformed the living room into a kingdom. Blanket fort, twinkle lights, paper hearts dangling on string. "Welcome to the love dinner," Lily announced. "No kissing until dessert," she added. "Lily!" Ella gasped, mortified. Jack chuckled. "Seems fair." Dinner was easy. Spaghetti, salad, far too many breadsticks. The girls wore matching headbands and told knock-knock jokes that didn't quite land. Jack and Ella mostly listened, laughter soft between them. Afterward, the girls disappeared into the fort, cartoons murmuring through its walls. Ella handed Jack a mug of tea and they sat on the floor side by side. "You've built something beautiful here," he said. "I'm still learning," she replied. "Some days it feels like patchwork." "Patchwork still holds," he said gently. She looked at him, a small, vulnerable smile touching her mouth. "I never expected someone like you," he admitted. "Me neither," she whispered. He reached for her hand. This time she didn't pull away. Their fingers rested together in that quiet space of possibility. For the first time in a long time, words weren't needed for the truth to be felt. The knock wasn't loud or rushed. It was measured, and asked for attention as much as entry. Jack wiped his hands on a rag and stepped from the bay, expecting a customer. A woman stood before him in a tailored camel coat, pearls at her throat, posture carved from stone. A black town car idled at the curb behind her. "You're Jack?" she asked coolly. "I am," he said. "Can I help you?" "I'm Margaret Whitmore, Ella's mother." Jack paused. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Whitmore." "I wish I could say the same." Her eyes swept the modest garage, unimpressed. "May we speak privately?" He led her into the office, two mismatched chairs, a calendar of vintage cars. She didn't sit. "I'll be direct," she began. "My daughter is a remarkable woman. After the scandal with her ex-husband, she rebuilt a life for herself and her child. And now I hear she's involved with a mechanic." Jack kept still. "With me?" he asked. "Yes," she said, voice sharpening. "I'm sure you're a decent man. But let's not pretend you belong in her world. She does not belong in yours." He didn't flinch. Margaret's voice stayed calm, but every word hit like steel. "Ella has worked far too hard to throw it away over sentiment. Whatever fondness Lily has for you, I'm sure it's appreciated. But this, whatever this is, needs to stop." Jack's jaw tightened, though he said nothing. "She needs someone who matches her ambition. Not a man who fixes cars behind a grocery store." He finally spoke, quiet but steady. I raise my daughter. I show up, I protect. I listen, I love. That may not be enough for you, but it's enough for Ella. Margaret's eyes sharpened. Don't mistake gratitude for love. Ella's heart is kind, sometimes too kind. She confuses compassion for permanence. Still, Jack didn't answer. At the door, she paused. Do the right thing, she said coldly. Let her go. Then she was gone, sliding into the black car waiting by the curb. The garage fell silent. Her words circled him like oil swirling on water. That night he didn't call. He didn't text. When Ruby asked if they'd see Lily that weekend, Jack only said, not this week. Days passed. Then a week. Ella called again. The screen lit up with her name, but Jack let it fade to black. Across town, Lily waited on the porch every evening. Her drawing stayed half-finished on the table, and her bunny plush untouched on the pillow. Is Jack mad at me? She whispered one night. No, baby, Ella said softly. He's just busy. I miss him, Lily murmured. I know, Ella replied, brushing her daughter's hair. I miss him too. At the garage, Jack worked slower now. His eyes kept drifting to the sidewalk, expecting a small figure to appear. One evening, Ruby walked in holding 2 juice boxes. I brought the apple one for you. Jack smiled faintly. Thanks, Bug. She climbed onto the bench beside him. Are we ever going to see Lily again? Probably not, he said after a moment. Ruby tilted her head. Because her grandma doesn't like you? Jack froze. You heard that? I was behind the door that day. He sighed. I didn't want you to. She was wrong, Ruby said firmly. She doesn't know you like I do. Jack looked away. Maybe she's right. Ruby's voice softened. Are you giving up because of me? His head snapped up. Never. She stared at her sneakers. You always say you just want me to be happy. But we were happy with them. She made you smile. Lily made me laugh. We were like a team. Jack couldn't speak. Then Ruby said quietly, Don't let anyone else tell us what family is supposed to look like. He pulled her close, held her tight, and for the first time in years, Jack let himself cry. Not from weakness, but because a little girl had just reminded him what strength really meant and what love was worth fighting for. The confrontation at Ella's house came over tea. Margaret Whitmore sat at her daughter's spotless kitchen island, lifting a porcelain cup with delicate precision. Across from her, Ella stood, arms folded, jaw tense. I spoke with him, Margaret said evenly. The mechanic. Ella's heart sank. I told him to walk away. For your sake. Ella's fingers curled against the marble counter. And did he? Margaret nodded as if confirming a victory. Ella turned her face away. You had no right. I had every right, Margaret snapped. You're not a reckless teenager, Ella. You're a mother. You run a company. You don't throw your life away for sentiment. Ella's voice dropped low, calm but firm. He's not sentiment, Mother. He's kind. He's steady. He shows up. He fixes cars, but he fixes more than that. He fixed my daughter's heart when I couldn't. He fixed mine when I didn't even know it was broken. Margaret's lips pressed into a thin line. You deserve more. No, Ella said. I deserve someone good. Someone who loves without ego. Someone who kneels on a picnic blanket to blow on a burn without thinking. Someone who listens when I talk and never asks me to shrink beside him. Margaret faltered. I don't need approval, Ella said, her voice steady now. I need partnership. And Lily, she needs a father, not a resume. Margaret drew in a breath to argue, but Ella cut her off. You always told me to be strong, she said. Then let me be strong now. Let me choose who I walk this life with. Let me choose happiness. Silence filled the room. Then Ella turned, grabbing her coat and keys. The house felt too still. Lily was away for a sleepover. As Ella opened the door, her eyes caught a folded piece of paper on the doormat. She knelt, picked it up, and opened it slowly. Inside was a crayon drawing, 4 stick figures holding hands under a scribbled blue sky and yellow sun, 2 little girls in dresses, a tall man with brown hair, a blonde woman in heels. In the corner, written in 2 different handwritings, We already have a family. Lily and Ruby Ella's throat tightened. She pressed the drawing to her chest. Tears came fast, full, unstoppable. She didn't wipe them away. She didn't stop. She just ran. The sky broke open as she reached Jack's garage. Rain poured in silver sheets. The lights inside were off. Still, she stepped out, drenched within seconds, arms wrapped around herself. She almost turned to leave. But Lily's laughter, Ruby's voice, and Jack's quiet hands rooted her there. 10 minutes, 20, an hour. Finally, the door creaked open. Jack stood there, framed in shadow and warm light. His eyes widened. "You're here," he said softly. Ella nodded. "I thought," he began. "I know," she interrupted. "I know what you did. I know why you walked away. But I never asked you to protect me like that. I didn't want to make your life harder." "You were the only part that made it easier," she whispered. Jack's breath caught. "I chose you," she said. "And I still do." He took a step forward. Rain blurred between them. They stood inches apart. No more words, only eyes that had seen pain, hands that had held children, hearts finally brave enough to stop running. He opened his arms. She fell into them, and beneath the downpour, in the hush of the night, Ella and Jack held on, not to fix each other, but because they already had. The garden behind Jack's garage had never been used for anything but rusted bikes and tools. That morning it looked transformed. Strings of fairy lights hung between fence posts, folding chairs lined in neat rows, mason jars filled with wildflowers, and a white linen arch swaying softly in the breeze. It wasn't lavish, but it felt just right. Jack stood beneath the archway, shirt pressed crisp, fingers interlaced in quiet patience. Beside him, Ruby wore a white cotton dress and light pink sneakers, holding a tiny bunch of wild daisies. "Are you nervous, Dad?" she whispered. "Maybe a little," he said, smiling. "She's going to look like a dream." Ruby giggled. "She already does." A soft guitar melody drifted through the air, played by a teenage boy from the bakery next door. Then the crowd turned as Ella appeared at the back of the garage, her hair in a loose braid, her dress swaying gently with each step. Lily walked ahead of her, tossing handfuls of petals like confetti. Halfway down the aisle, Lily looked at Ruby and grinned. "We practiced this part," she whispered. The two girls clasped hands, skipping forward as they scattered petals, shouting with joy. "She's my mom, and now you're my dad." Laughter rippled across the small crowd. Jack's throat tightened. Ella's eyes glistened as she reached him. They joined hands. No long speeches, no show. Just presence, just love. The ceremony was simple, honest, and full. When it was Jack's turn, he said quietly, "I won't try to fix you, but I'll stand beside you while you find your own way." Ella smiled, squeezing his hand. "You see the woman behind the title, tired, stubborn, human, and you still choose her." Their kiss drew the loudest cheers from two little girls wearing flower crowns, who jumped up and down with delight. Later, when the sun melted into gold and orange, Jack took Ella's hand and led her behind the garage. A white sheet covered something large under a tarp. "Your wedding gift," he said. Ella raised a brow. "Don't tell me you bought another car." Jack smirked. "Not bought, rebuilt." He pulled the sheet away, revealing a vintage cream Volkswagen Beetle, newly restored, shining like a piece of memory. Tiny daisies were painted along the doors, and across the back bumper, engraved in steel, were the words, "Even broken things can be made whole, including us." Ella ran her fingers over the letters, voice trembling. "I found her in a junkyard," Jack said. "Everyone said she was beyond saving, but—" She reminded me of us. She kissed him, soft, grateful, full of meaning. No words followed. None were needed. That night, as stars blinked awake above them, Jack sat on the grass with Ella's head resting on his shoulder. In front of them, Lily and Ruby chased each other with sparklers, their laughter spilling through the air. "You can't catch me," Ruby shrieked. Lily laughed. "You're family now. That means I win too." Ella smiled. "They're unstoppable." Jack nodded. "We all are." Then Ella whispered, "That day you fixed more than my car. You fixed everything I didn't know was broken. No fairy tale, just a real life made of cracked edges, burnt fingers, crayons on the fridge, and quiet courage. A life pieced back together, whole again. If this story made you smile, brought a tear to your eye, or reminded you that broken things can be mended, then it did what stories are meant to do. Because sometimes, family isn't written in blood, it's written in love, patience, and the bravery to begin again.